I saw this article on Fightful.com. Charlotte Flair says she's extremely proud of Tessa Blanchard winning the Impact World Championship and remains optimistic that something similar may be in her future as well. Charlotte, of course, has been the driving force and standout star of the women's evolution in WWE, with 12 women's championships under her belt. Um, there are those that feel the only step up for her is to take a leap into intergender wrestling. When she was in an interview asked about Tessa Blanchard winning the world championship in Impact. She said, "It's something that I want to pursue, but if you look at the big picture, when women are succeeding in different organizations all around the world, we're all succeeding and we're all winning from that. So for her to hold that accolade, we should support and just be extremely proud as a woman to see her do that because when one's doing well, we're all doing well." So Charlotte did kind of hint that she would like to possibly one day hold a men's title. And I put that in quotes because, it's not a, obviously the Raw women's title, SmackDown women's title, women's tag title, but none of the quote unquote men's titles are actually there's no rule that says they are men's championships. Obviously the first step in this potentially happening at any point would be the WWE having to be willing to go down the intergender wrestling route at all, which we haven't really seen. Besides what Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, when Ronda kind of went at it with Triple H. So there's not a lot of instances in today's WWE of that. So you'd have to go there first. Now, is this something that you think will actually happen at some point in the WWE?
No, I don't. I just don't think the WWE and their target audience is interested in watching that.
Okay. How about you, Matt?
This is a question I pose to everyone that we have on the podcast in terms of female wrestlers is, do we see this? And the resounding answer and the answer that I would give myself is, do we really want to? I think that the intergender thing is kind of something that is sacred to independent wrestling. Like, we as independent wrestling fans kind of need to hold on to some things as like, hey, this is ours, don't mess with it. I think deathmatch style wrestling is something that will always be just exclusive to indies, and I think intergender wrestling falls into that same field. I know we've seen it, or we've seen hints at it on the main stage. The Tessa Blanchard thing is one thing. We've seen some hints at it in WWE at Rumbles. Nia Jax and Dean Ambrose. We had the whole Becky Lynch and Ellsworth thing, so it's something they've kind of toyed with, but it's never something they've fully embraced, and I don't think it's something that they should, just because that's kind of like a quirk or of the indie scene, is just like, hey, we can do this. This makes us kind of separate from WWE, and I think WWE should kind of leave it alone, because I don't think they would ever really do it the right way.
Yeah, it's and obviously, I think if there's somebody that they're going to have do it, it will probably be Charlotte Flair. She's been the most heavily pushed superstar on the women's roster, and and it would seem the most likely that Charlotte would be the benefactor if they would ever go this route. But I don't think they do. And it's not because they shouldn't, or that women couldn't compete with the men. I know Charlie in the comments said if China can win the Intercontinental title, Charlotte could absolutely. And maybe it's not even that Charlotte would end up as WWE champion or Universal champion. Maybe she would go after the Intercontinental title or the U.S. title. And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that either. It's just I kind of agree with you, Matt, that I don't know that the WWE would necessarily do it the right way. If if anything, and not necessarily Charlotte because she's not a full-time member of the NXT roster. Hell, she wasn't a full-time member of the NXT roster when she was NXT champion for the last couple of months. But I could more see it if like a Rhea Ripley would go after the NXT championship or something, something along those lines. Like I could see this more in NXT because for like the reasons Ryan said, that's kind of the more indie portion of the WWE. And out of all the major programs from WWE, and I'll lump in AEW, NXT is the most wrestling out of those programs. So I could see it more there if it happens, but I don't think it happens at all. Not that it shouldn't, I just don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't even know if it happens in a place like AEW. I'm trying to think and go through their roster. I just, especially with the caliber wrestlers that they're putting. I don't want to say caliber, that's the wrong word. But I don't know. I just don't see a female competitor wrestling a Chris Jericho or a Dean Moxley, or I'm sorry, John Moxley,
Dean Moxley,
successfully on TNT. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, and Impact kind of struck on something that wrestling fans are somewhat unfamiliar with anymore, and it worked for them, and I think that'll be more of an outlier as opposed to like something that happens regularly in any company. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if it would happen, I don't think, to me anyway, I don't think there's any doubt that it's Charlotte. Just because like I jokingly said that right after she loses the NXT women's title, she's kind of right back in the picture, it would seem, for the Raw women's title. So that's just she's well on her way to beating Ric Flair's 16 world championships.